But I would imagine they're looking at her. I have nothing to do with it. I would imagine. Of course I have nothing to do. I have nothing, but I believe she married her brother, which is totally illegal. Although it's a lovely couple, actually, but it's a little bit on the illegal side. Darling, I love you very much. Good night, brother. Let's go to bed. Good night. Isn't she despicable? I can't stand watching her. I can't stand. Did you see last month, she accidentally checked the wrong box. It said she was worth $38 million. And law enforcement came after her for that. And then all of a sudden, she was worth less than $80,000. And she said it was accounting. It was an accounting error. That was not a very good accountant, was it, huh? No. Their whole life is based on fraud and a scam. The whole thing is a scam. And we ought to get those people the hell out of our country. To get better care to our seniors much more quickly, my administration has dramatically accelerated Medicare prior authorization's a big deal. That's what used to take days and weeks and months to get, and now you're getting it done in a matter of minutes. Really, I mean, unbelievable job you've done. Minutes. And we have a big search for fraud. Very little. You know, when people get arrested all over Minnesota, all over California, wait till you see what we're coming up with in California. Gavin Newsom is not good. But he gave the worst interview a month ago. Did you see it? Where he said he was incompetent, he can't read, he can't write, he can't do it. He said he's horrible for testing. We should give him a cognitive test. I took 3 of them. Aced all of them, by the way. You know, I'm the only president to take a cognitive test because I don't think Obama could pass it. I don't. Didn't he get into Harvard with a C average? I don't know. What's that? I don't think he could pass it. I don't think. Well, Biden isn't. Give me a break. You know, the first question is very easy. It's a lion, a giraffe, a bear, and a shark. They say, which one is the bear? And everybody says, 30 questions. Everyone says, very standard. It's a very standard test, but very tough around those last 10 questions. Not too many people, even in this very room, unlike Newsom, I'll say, this room of geniuses. He said, I'm in a room of dumb people. That was not good. That was not good. You know what happened to him after that? It wasn't a pretty, but I'm in a room of brilliant people, but a lot of you wouldn't have been able to answer those 10 questions. And when I got the score in the test, the doctor said, wow, I've never seen, you know, you have 5 doctors lined up. They're all over the place. I said, should I take it? You know, I've had different phases. They've said, he's a mad genius. I didn't mind that too much. Then they said, he's a horrible human being. I don't like that much. Then they said, he's really not a smart person at all. I really hated that. So I took a cognitive test, and I said to the doctor, first doctor is Dr. Ronnie. You know Doc Ronnie. We all love Doc Ronnie. But he had a whole team of doctors at Walter Reed, a great place. I said, so should I do it? He said, well, it's a tough exam, actually. You know, those last 20 questions, they get tough. A lot of people can't do them. I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, if you do it, they're going to find out because it's essentially a public, you know, it's a military hospital. If you do badly, they're going to find out and it won't be pleasant. I said, well, I do well on things, so let's do it. And I got everyone right. And these are tough questions. These are tough questions, you know. They say, take a number, any number. Okay, I'll take 99, multiply times 9, okay? Divide it by 3, good. Add 4,293, that's good. Divide by 2, subtract 93, divide by 9, what is your answer? Now, they go a little slower than that, but not much. I don't want to waste a lot of time. But there aren't a lot of people that get it right. I got it right, you know. It was actually longer and more complex than that. But no, it's a tough test, so I took it. And then, everyone said, all right, good, he's smart. He's smart. It's not really smart. It's like, you know what we are, really? We have common sense. We're people with common sense, right? We like strong borders. We don't like open borders for the world to pour into our country, right? From prisons all over the Congo, all over South America. The Congo, I tell you what, the Congo, they just used to think that we were just an open cesspool where they take all their prisoners and dump them into our country. Parts of South America, the same thing. It's terrible, terrible. So, as you know, we've done a fantastic job. But I just felt, and I put out yesterday a statement, I think anybody running for president or vice president should be forced to take a cognitive examination. Right? I mean, you get a guy, he gets in, he's got a good line of crap, he gets in, and all of a sudden you're stuck with a man who's a moron. You know, this is not good. This is not good. We went through 4 years of it. It's not a good situation. But we also dramatically increased coverage for outpatient clinical care known as site-neutral payments, stopping seniors from being ripped off by billions of dollars of outrageous fees that they charge, billions and billions of dollars, right? Oz. And on top of these major Medicare improvements, I'm pleased to report today that we have authorized $210 million in rural health care funding for the great state of Florida. 210. We're taking some of the money that they scammed. You know, we're catching billions of dollars, billions. Minnesota, it's like you ever hear the expression, shooting fish in a barrel? It's like shooting fish in a barrel. And that governor and that attorney general are so crooked. It's so horrible. It's so horrible. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, stranger things have happened, I will tell you. By the way, and our Attorney General is doing a very good job, isn't he? Todd Blanche, she's doing a very good job. A lot of action. There's a lot of pent-up action. Perhaps most importantly for our great seniors, I have secured the largest reduction in drug prices in American history. You say it. Under my most favored nation agreements, we are delivering you the record-setting discounts with price differences of 400%, 500%, and 600, 700, and even sometimes 800% reductions. Now, some people would say it's 80, 90, 70. It depends on the way you phrase the statement, but it could be 500, 600%. It could be 90%. It doesn't matter. We've gotten you the largest reductions in history, the largest reductions. We were the most overpriced. We had the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world, and now we have the lowest prices anywhere in the world. That's all you have to know. And to get that, because Oz said to me, you know, it's going to be very tough. The drug companies are going to be bad, but we had to get the approval of other nations. As an example, I talk about the fat drug. The fat drug, a friend of mine who's extremely fat and very wealthy and very obnoxious. He's a very unattractive individual, actually. But he's extremely smart, very, very successful. He's a highly neurotic person, semi-controlled. I would say, you know, usually I like to say I like a neurotic person, but it has to be controlled. This guy's only semi, but he's in London, and he calls me, he goes, President, in New York, I'm paying like $87 for the fat drug. He called it the fat shot. I've given it that name, the fat shot. And I said, well, it's not working too well for you. But he said, I pay $87 in London. In New York, I'm paying like $1,300. So I'm paying $1,300 and $87. What's that all about? And other people would call me the same, but he made a big imprint because he's a very smart guy. He said, you know what, I had it traced. It's made in the same factory. It's made by the same company. Everything's the same except the price. One's $87 and one's $1,300. He said, this is ridiculous. And it did hit me the right way. And we went to town, didn't we, Oz? We went to town. And we shamed the drug prices because they were, for years, said, well, you know, it's research and development. I said, well, it's research and development for them also, right? But we got them. They weren't easy, but we got all of them lined up. But they said it didn't matter. The reason we got them because they said we'd never get the other countries. We had to get approval of the other countries where they'd have to double their prices and triple their prices because we come way down, they go up a little bit because the world is bigger than us, right? So they go up a little bit. So I'd call up, like, as an example, France. I spoke with Macron, right? You know Macron, he's a wonderful guy, president of the country, he's a nice guy. So I say, Emmanuel, your drug prices are a tiny fraction of ours. We can't have that. We're going to have to raise it. No, Donald, I will not do that. No, you will do it, Emmanuel. No, you'll do it. 100% you're going to do it. No, I will not do it. And this went on for about 2 minutes. I'm saying you will. He's saying he won't. So most people would say he won't do it. Then I said to him, Emmanuel, if you don't do it, I'm going to put a 250% tariff on all wines and champagnes that you ship into our country. And he said, Donald, how dare you? You should not do that. You cannot do that. And I said, no, I'm going to do it. Okay, you have a deal. That was it. That was it. And I told Oz couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. And we had the same thing with Germany. We had the same thing with other countries. I said, look, you're not going to do it. We're going to tariff the hell out of you at double the number that you're talking about. And they all agreed. Every one of those countries agreed. And now you have the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world from the highest. And that alone should win us the midterms. But, you know, the fake news doesn't like to write about it. They don't even like... I noticed a couple of the cameras went off when I was talking about it. When I'm getting to a really juicy subject, to me, that's a juicy... Think of it. I mean, you talk about healthcare, it's all around medicines and everything else. And, Byron, how big a deal is that, right? By the way, this guy's going to be a great governor. Okay. Going to be great. Ag commissioner, you just stand up. What a job he's doing. What a job he's doing. My ag commissioner, who I endorsed a long time. So I just want to thank you all. You guys are doing a great job. Byron, you're going to be fantastic. We have somebody named Ashley who's very respected. Will you please stand up? Senator, our great senator. I suppose you're all leading like a lot. But remember, make it too big to rig. You got to go out and vote. Don't assume anything, you know. We did great in the second election. It was a rigged election, but we did great. And I said, well, I had the ultimate poll because we won the second election by a lot. So that's a good poll. So we did it again. And I said, too big to rig. You got to make it too big. They showed me leading by a lot. I said, don't be fooled. Just go out and vote because they are cheaters. They cheat like hell. But all of you have to do, and really what you want to do is Trump, and I didn't name it. This was named by Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz. I did not name it. Is that right? I said, what is that? TrumpRx.gov, okay? I said, everyone thinks I put my name on it. I don't think I'm going to put my name on medical things. I mean, you know, medical things can be very dangerous to have your name on, to be honest with you. But it's setting, I guess, records from what I understand. There's never been anything like it. So TrumpRx.gov, go to it and buy your medicines for very little money. Very little money, difference. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I wish the press would talk about it, but the word is out, and it doesn't probably matter that much. The word is out. They don't want to talk about, they only want to talk about the bad, but this is really something that's special. I'm very proud of it. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that starting on July 1st, we will also provide Medicare patients with the coverage for weight loss drugs like Ozempic, Zepbound, Wegovy. It will be available for $50 a month. $50. Wow. Now think of that, $50 a month. So if it was $1,300, now it's $50, and the $1,300 doesn't cover a whole month. So it's really even more than that. So it's now down to $50. So that's where you get it. And also, and you remember when I cut insulin and I got it down to $25 insulin, it was $2,000. And that was before this. That was before this. I'm so glad you mentioned insulin. You know, when I got insulin done, it was at the end of my term, and I got it done, but it doesn't kick in statutorily for 2 years. And I said, I better win the election. This is going into the second election, because what a job I did. And, you know, insulin was at like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. I got it to $25, but it kicked in. It kicked in about a year and a half, 2 years later. Statutorily, you had to wait a period of time and all of that nonsense. So I said, boy, I better win, because if I don't, some guy is going to take credit for something that I did that they could have never done. Lo and behold, the election was rigged. And I saw Biden a year later standing up there saying, I did a great job on insulin. He doesn't even know what the hell, he had no idea. And I was standing there seething. I was watching television. You know what it is to seethe? I seethe a lot. But this is one of the times I was seething. Oz knows that. I was so angry. I said, I did it, and I didn't get credit for it. We did a lot of things we didn't get credit for, but I guess I did, because here I am, I'm president. I guess I did. Not only are we taking care of your physical health, we're also taking care of the financial health of our seniors. As you have probably seen, the 401ks and retirement accounts of millions of American seniors are skyrocketing like never before. You know, we're in a war, because I think you would agree we cannot let lunatics have a nuclear weapon. Do you agree? Because if you read the fake polls and things, it says, well, it's only a 20% or 25%. It's nonsense. Look at this. I'm talking about all these things you're getting, and you stand up when I talk about you can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. We can't. But I did something that was, I don't know, foolish, brave, but it was smart. I would do it again, but I thought the numbers would be much worse. I thought the stock market would go down much more. I thought the oil prices would go up much more. I said, but we have no choice. Whether it does or doesn't, I have to do what's right. We can't let them have a nuclear weapon. So I called in Scott Bessent and all of my people, mostly my financial people, and I said, all right, folks, congratulations. We just hit the highest price in the history of the stock market. So I said the Dow would never hit 50 during my 4 years, because it was too much of a raise. They thought 6, 7 years out, maybe it could hit 50,000. They said the S&P could never hit 7,000, right, Scott? That would be even more unlikely. Maybe at the end of the fourth year, but probably not. It would be 5, 6 years out. And we hit 50,000 on the Dow before the end of my first year. We hit 7,000 on the S&P before the end of my first year. The stock market is rocking and rolling. Your 401ks are at the highest they've ever been. I don't know how the hell you could be doing badly. But your 401ks are setting records. I have people coming up to me and saying, you've made me a hero to my wife. You've made me a hero. I've had numerous policemen. I had one guy from years ago, because I did the same thing. We had the greatest financial markets in the history of our country in my first term. We're blowing it away now. We're blowing everything away. There's never been a country this successful in that sense before. But now I said, okay, you ever do this? Well, you're doing so well. I said, so we just set every record. We have the highest market in history. We have things that just go. And by the way, there are more jobs today in our country than at any time in the history of our country by far, right? So, but we have to think a little long term. And I said to Scott and Howard and all of the people that work for me, great people, Jameson, Greer, all of them, I called them in. I said, fellas, congratulations. We have the highest stock market we've ever had. Everyone's doing great. Oil prices were very low. They were 60 and 70. You were buying oil for $2 and even less. Remember, just a couple of months ago, you were at $2 and $1.85. In Iowa, it was $1.85 a gallon. I said, congratulations. Now I'm going to upset the apple cart for you because we have to take a little journey down to a beautiful country known as Iran, and we have to make sure that they don't have a nuclear weapon. We stopped them with the B-2 bombers. If we didn't do that, we would have had a nuclear weapon. Israel would have been blown to pieces. The Middle East would have been blown to pieces. I think Europe would have been blown to pieces. But under what we were doing, I said, look, we're going to have to make this journey. So it's almost like we built up this great thing, and then I said, now we have to break the eggs a little bit, and we have to go and do it. And the only thing that I'm surprised is that I really thought oil would be, Dr. Oz, we talked about it, I thought oil would be much higher than it turned out to be. I mean, it's not low, it's certainly not low. It's going to come crashing down as soon as this war is over, and they're getting decimated. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. They have no radar. They have no leaders. Their leaders are all gone. It's very sad, very fine people. But with all of that, I said we have to do it, so I think you understand. But I am surprised. I thought the stock market would go down by 25%. I thought that oil prices would be at much higher than they are right now. They're not nearly as high as I thought. And we're going to, look, we're winning so big. We're winning again. Their Air Force is gone. Their ships are gone. They have a Navy, 159 ships. That's a pretty good Navy. Within the first week, 159 out of 159 ships are right now lying at the bottom of the sea. Their Navy is gone. And we're discussing, I spoke to them today, we're discussing, it's a little hard to figure out who their leaders are, frankly. You know, their leaders are gone. The first set is gone. The second set is gone. Khomeini was gone. And they were pretty evil people. Not pretty evil, they were evil. They killed 42,000 protesters. 42,000! And in a period of 2 weeks, they killed 42,000 protesters. But we had to get this done, and we're really doing well. We're just winning. If it were a fight, they'd stop it. If this were a fight, they'd stop it. You know that expression, it's true. But they're not coming through with the kind of deal that we have to have, and we're going to get this thing done properly. We're not going to leave early and then have the problem arise in 3 more years. Under 4 years of Crooked Joe, I go crooked and sleepy. Which is better, Sleepy Joe or Crooked Joe? Ready? Sleepy Joe. Crooked Joe. I love it. It's free polls. You know, if I went to a pollster, they're all phony. If I went to a pollster, I'd pay $1 million for that question. Give me $1 million, sir. And then they don't go to interview. They just put it down, whatever they want. You know? They say, we scoured the countryside. They didn't scour. They sit in their room watching television. They say, oh, let's give Trump a little bit of an advantage that makes him happy. Under 4 years of crooked Joe Biden, the average 401k rose at the rate of $875 a year. Okay, that's something, a little raise. But you know why he rose? Because of me with the 4 years that we had. Because after that, there was nothing. He would have gone down. They took over the momentum of what we created in the first 4 years, which was incredible. Under Trump, so it's $875. Under Trump, the number 875 is the rise, $30,000. So it's 875 versus $30,000. For seniors, that number is $50,000, $60,000, even $70,000 or more a year. That's what you went up. And just yesterday, I signed an executive order that will, for the first time, expand matching IRA contributions to the millions and millions of Americans who lack employer-sponsored plans. Obviously, some of you. And starting next year, every citizen will be able to go to TrumpIRA.gov and sign up for a high-quality, low-cost IRA so that everyone can benefit from the rising stock market. Go sign up. These are all things that people have been talking about for years, right, Scott? They've been talking about them for years. In 4 years, the Biden administration got less than $1 trillion of new investment. So In 4 years, he got much less than 1 trillion people investing in the country, other countries, other people. In my first 11 months, we secured commitments for more than $18 trillion now pouring into our country from all over the globe. Think of that. Think of that. Less than $1 trillion in 4 years, and 11 months. Of 12th month hasn't come out yet. That's long enough. But in 11 months, $18 trillion. So that's 18 times more. But think of it. It's really almost 100 times more if you really multiply it out properly. A short time ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Congratulations. Core inflation has dropped to a 5-year low. And I tell you, the only thing, we got a little raise with gasoline. It's going to come down lower than what it was. Don't forget, we had that gasoline down to $2 and below $2 in many cases. It's going to come tumbling down. There is so much oil out there. It's pent up. It's locked up in the Strait of Hormuz, a beautiful place. It's, I think they have close to 400 ships loaded up with oil. When all of that gets released, when all of that comes out, these people tried to hold up our country for years and years, the world, by closing up the Strait of Hormuz. When all of that stuff comes out, you're going to see prices dropping on gasoline like you've never seen, and all of that, electricity, gasoline, anything having to do with energy. Grocery prices are way down. Used car prices are way down. Look at eggs. Eggs are down by 4, even 5 times. Remember when I took over, eggs were so high? Remember my first news conference as president of second term? 2 days in, I said, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any questions? What about eggs? I said, what? Eggs, egg prices are 4 times higher than they were a year ago. I said, I just got here. I've only been here for a day and a half. And we had a problem with eggs. The prices were through the roof. I got them down to now they're lower than they were at the lowest point 4 years ago. Think of that. But I got them down. Does anybody write about it? No. That's why I like doing speeches. You know, they don't write about it, so I do speeches. That way I can talk about it. Sometimes you got to do it yourself. Earlier this year, I directed Fannie and Freddie to buy, you know what that is? Well, where's Bill? Where's Bill Pulte? He's around here someplace. He's done what a great job. He's created $1 trillion value. Look at him over there. He's jumping. Smart guy. During my first term, I was offered, sounds like a lot of money, but it's very little compared to what, less than $100 million to buy Fannie and Freddie. And I said, nope, I don't want to sell it. Don't sell it. They wanted to sell it so badly. And now it's worth over $1 trillion. If I would have sold it, I would have felt like a schmuck, you know, to be honest. It's worth over $1 trillion. What is it, about $1 trillion now, right? He says higher. No, we could have sold it. We could have given it away for nothing, practically nothing. So I directed Fannie and Freddie to buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds, bringing interest rates plummeting down from nearly 8% under Sleepy Joe and 6% even lower. And don't forget, we had a hostile Fed. We had a guy, too late. We call him too late. He's too late with interest reductions. Jerome Too Late Powell. We had I haven't figured out, is he a bad guy or dumb guy? But it doesn't matter. The end result, he's either dumb, bad, maybe he's a combination of both. But in any event, because rates, we would have had them even lower, but we've done great considering that we're fighting. Now we have a great Federal Reserve chair coming in, and he's going to be fantastic, Kevin Warsh. We've reduced the annual cost of a typical new mortgage by $4,000. Think of that, $4,000 a year after decades of other countries stealing our jobs and plundering our wealth, taking advantage of our country like we're a bunch of fools. Thanks to our strong policy on tariffs, I love those tariffs. We cut our gaping trade deficit by 55% this year alone. So we had a trade deficit was massive when I took over. And if you cut it by 1%, 2%, you're considered like a genius. I cut it by 55%. And next year is even better. And that's despite the Supreme Court making me do the tariffs a different way. I cannot believe they did that, but they did it. They shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't matter. I'm doing it a different way, a little more work, a little more time. Pay back $159 billion of the money that you got in. But we're doing it. It's actually very solid. It's 100%, can't be challenged. And we informed the very beautiful country of Germany that because of the fact that they and other European nations have not adhered to our trade deal. They haven't adhered to our trade deal. We have a trade deal that Scott and me and Howard and all our great people, Jameson, we all did a great trade deal, but the European Union has not adhered to it. So we've increased the tariffs on all cars coming into the United States by 25% and trucks. Knowing that if Mercedes and BMW and the truck companies and all of the people out there that send stuff in and didn't pay anything for years, they ripped us off. They took our jobs away from us. Not anymore. It's the opposite. They're all coming back. You know, factories are pouring back into our country, but they're all coming back. But we informed them that we're going to charge them, we're going to increase their tariff to 25%, knowing that if they build their plants in the United States, there is no tariff. They have to hire our great American workers, and there is no tariff. Think of it. And we've added now, we are now building AI plants, all of everything. But we have part of that $18 trillion. But we have more construction going on in plant, what they call plant and equipment, than we've ever had before, in car plants. We had a period of time that for 25 years we didn't build one plant. They took our car industry away. It went to Germany, Japan, Mexico, Canada. It went to the European Union like crazy. Germany, think of it. It went to the European Union. We went for a period of almost 30 years with barely building a plant. Now we're building more plants for cars and trucks than we've ever built in the history of our country, including prime time from many years ago. They're all coming back because they don't want to pay tariffs. Very simple. Very simple. They don't want to pay tariffs. If you don't want to pay tariffs, that's fine. Build your plant here. Build it in Florida. I don't think of you too much as, you don't need the cars, but build it in Florida. Any place in the United States is okay with me, but they're building them all over our country. We added 186,000 private sector jobs in March. Jobless claims just hit the lowest level since 1969. Think of it, jobless claims. So, since 1969, the lowest level since 1969. And more Americans are working today, as I said, than at any time in the history of our country by far. It's not even close. And with our no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, we're doing something that has never been done. And the consumer, which is you have more money to spend than you have in many, many decades. Very importantly, for our great seniors, we are, I hate to mention this, it's so negative. It's called the estate tax, because nobody in this room will ever die. But just in case you should, if you have children that you love, it's very important. If you don't love your children, then it doesn't matter too much. Who cares? Oh, I know some that won't leave their kids. They hate their kids, but, you know, these are bad people. They're usually very wealthy, too. I don't know what that's all about. But we have no inheritance tax. We have no death tax. Who really it affects is the farmer, the small farmers, medium-sized farmers. They're called land-rich, cash-poor. You know, that beautiful land. It's very valuable, but they don't make tremendous income. And they die. They leave it to their children. Their children goes out to the local banker, borrows money to pay the tax because the tax was 50% and more. And they end up losing their farm. In many cases, they love their life. They commit suicide. It's a crazy thing. They lose their whole life and they commit suicide. There's no more of that. So when you die, you leave your farm or your small business to your children. You have no estate tax. You have no death tax. I think that's a big deal. To me, that's a big deal, right? Byron, that's a good one, right? That's good. You know, you want to lead your way of life. You don't want to be forced to sell your farm. Sometimes you can't sell your farm for what they think it's worth, and you have nothing but trouble. What a problem it was. You don't have to worry about it anymore. We made interest on new car loans tax deductible, but only if you buy a car that's made in America. Otherwise, we couldn't care less. That's a big deal. So that you go out and you borrow money to buy a car, and, you know, you paid interest, you didn't get, now you get a deduction. That's like 40, 50%. It's like a phenomenal thing. You get 100% deduction on interest. So the interest payments that you make to the bank for the car loan, you're able to deduct that from income tax. Now, it has to be made in America. So go buy American cars or cars that are made in America. And we also created the brand new Trump accounts along with a really fantastic family, the Dell family. Have you used their computers recently? Susan and Michael Dell, they're amazing people. He put up $6.25 billion. A lot of people said, I'm going to match him on the 250, but even the 250 is a lot. Think of it. He was the first one. He bought $6.25 billion of these accounts for children all over the country. And it was just announced this morning that it's setting records, so that, you know, when your beautiful baby, we have an automatic $1,000 contribution for every newborn child, and it allows everyone to contribute to a tax-free savings account for your grandchildren. A lot of people are buying it for their grandchildren to benefit them, so that after they turn 18, they could have $100,000, $125,000, $150,000, depending on what goes on, and they can be sort of rich. And it's an amazing thing, and it's like a wildfire. It's doing so great, right, Scott? It's been really an amazing thing. And with us today is a grandmother who lives in the Villages named Mary Alice. After a long time in the Michigan real estate and automobile industry, she and her husband retired to the Villages. And thanks to our great, big, beautiful bill, I love that bill. You know, we have 4 years worth of stuff. That's why we call it the great, big, beautiful bill. We were going to have 19 separate bills. And I said to Mike Johnson, John Thune, I said, fellas, the Speaker of the House, head of the Senate, I said, let's try for one big, beautiful, because I don't know, these Democrats are crazy. And it was early. We had a little bit of a honeymoon, just a little tiny bit. I said, let's see if we can get everything in one bill. And everyone said, no way, you're not going to do it. It's the greatest, it's the biggest thing ever passed in the history of our country, the great, big, beautiful. And it's mostly, it should be called the great, big, beautiful tax cut bill. But also we have tremendous regulatory cuts, and that's why your jobs are so good, because all of these people, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, everything, they're able to take regulations with a little bit of a grain of salt. It's not going to put you out of business. There are tremendous regulation cuts, and it's really been amazing. So they just received a tax refund of double the size of anything that they've ever gotten. Think of this, Mary Alice, for years she's gotten peanuts, and now she's gotten a tax of double the size, and in many cases 4 or 5 times the size of anything she ever got before. So Mary Alice is now considered a rich person. Come on up, Mary Alice, say a few words. Come on up. Oh, look at her. She looks good. She's a rich woman. Come on, Mary.
Thank you, President Trump. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Hey, wait, let me get this out. You want me to get that out? Wait.
Oh, yeah, because I'm really short.
You can, I think you'll be good.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank President Trump for everything he's done for all of us. And the big, beautiful bill helped my husband and I so much this year. We were so shocked when we picked up our tax return and the accountant told us how much money we were getting back. We were just thrilled. It was double what we thought we would get. We ended up using some of that money to pay for a new roof. Now, we all know we live in Florida and we all need roofs. So we were able to use some of that money for the new roof, and we're thrilled that we were able to do that and we didn't deplete our savings account. So is all because of the no tax on Social Security. And, you know, we live on a income that's fixed. And so we have to be careful how we spend our money. And thanks to President Trump and his administration, we've been able to live a great life here in Florida. So thank you, everyone. Thank you,
That's so
President.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, darling. Careful. Beyond that railing. Thank you. Wow. That's better than I can do, I'll tell you right now. No, it's a great story. Thank you, Mary Alice. You're really something special. Thank you. Congratulations. But never forget, every single Democrat in Congress voted against no tax on Social Security. They voted against it, every single one. We didn't get one vote positive because they're just like a sick unit of people, just like the State of the Union speech. I introduced people, the mother of somebody who was slaughtered by an illegal immigrant that came in, slaughtered so horribly, and please stand up. And the mother stands up. She's beside herself. The Democrats are sitting here. They didn't move. They're just sitting here. No. They're sitting here long fast. The Republicans are going crazy there. They're screaming, and they love, you know, they love the woman that they wouldn't clap, or the helicopter pilots that did so well in Venezuela, a great, incredible military achievement. And he was shot in the legs, bringing down a lot of men in the helicopters, a big Chinook. And he was shot in the legs, and you operate those things with the legs more than anything else. And he was very badly hit hard in the legs, and he brought that helicopter down, and then he says, take over because I'm going to be passing out now, after it was perfectly landed in exactly the location they had to be. Otherwise, we could have had a problem like Jimmy Carter had. You remember that problem with helicopters crashing back and forth? It was not good, but that was Venezuela. How good did that work out, right? And we introduced him, handsome guy, beautiful looking guy. We introduced him. We gave him the Congressional Medal of Honor. That first time it's ever been done in the State of the Union. We gave him the Congressional Medal of Honor, and the Democrats sat there like a bunch of dead people. They didn't move. And I called them out. I said, you people are crazy. There's something wrong with you. But they voted against income tax cuts for seniors. They voted in favor of the largest tax hike in the history of our country. They wanted the largest tax hike in the history of our country. They also created the catastrophic inflation that I told you about, worst really in our history. If congressional Democrats had their way, Florida seniors would be paying higher taxes, higher prices, while Republicans have given you much lower taxes, much lower prices. You know, I use the word affordability, but I was the one that received these high prices. You know, it's amazing. I come into office and I say, wow, look at how high these prices are. And the Democrats start screaming, affordability, affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem. I'll tell you one thing. They got one good line of bullshit. That's one thing I'll say about it. They are so bad. They are so bad. It's true. Affordability. It's the first time I heard the word. I'm 2 days in, and I watch this sleazebag, one of these crazy congressmen, get up, and he's being interviewed. He said, affordability, prices are too high. I've just got there. But we brought prices way down. They gave us tremendously high prices, and they'll give them to you again. They take over. You have to get out and vote in the midterms because they'll give them to you again. And we're pleased to be joined today by some of those great warriors from the House and Senate, including someone who is representing your great state really well. And I introduced her just briefly before, but she's fantastic. She's a great person, a great senator, Ashley Moody. Thank you for being here, Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. And I also want to introduce Randy Fine, who's back there, Kat Kamek, who's over here, Daniel Webster, who, by the way, is retiring. I don't like that. Where's Daniel? You're around here someplace. Daniel, stand up, Daniel. What a career. He's retiring. And I know we have a good Republican taking your place, if that's possible to take your place. Thank you, Daniel. Great career. We appreciate it. Long time. How many years? A long time. He's been there a long time, a great gentleman. And a man who never stops fighting for the state of Florida. I know it. He is a fighter. Byron Donalds. Byron. Special. Special guy. Thank you. Thank you. He's so far ahead in the polls, I don't have to ask him to come up. I would ask him, but when you know, my theory is when you're up by more than 20 points, I don't want to waste the time, okay? Is that all right? He's killing him. Another great friend of mine, Florida Agriculture Commissioner Wilton Simpson, who's running and going to be great. He's a great guy. And the Florida CFO, Blas Ingolia. Blas, where are you? Yes, Blas, thank you. Thank you, good job. We're also joined by very much of a legend. He's really an amazing, he straightens you out mentally, probably has his own problems, but we don't have to know about that. But we've all grown up watching him. I've watched him for so many years. I did a show before the election, and I thought I was sort of doing him a favor by doing him the show. I said, I'm hotter than he is. Why the hell should I do a show? But I did it, and I have never had such a response as I had on that show. Where's Dr. Phil? Are you here? Come here. Come here, Dr. Phil. No, I did his show. Wow. Come on up here, Dr. Phil. Get up here. Give them a little lecture, but very short. Give them a little lecture on life. Talk about life for 2 minutes or less.
Well, hello. I had a different reaction than the president when I told my wife I was coming to the Villages. She said, oh, no. No. Not without me, you're not. Those people are crazy partiers. She says, Robin says, give you her love. She really wanted to be here, but we have grandchildren, so I'm now 5th in line. By the way, Mr. President, I've given that cognitive test that he took. I used to administer those, where you give them 9,000 divided by 2, 6, 7. I recall one guy did that about the president's age. Took about 6 minutes to go through it. I said, so what's your answer? He said, a small wire-haired terrier. So great that he got that done. No kidding. Listen, I really do want to take a chance to talk about this a little bit, because what the president is doing here is really something you got to think about differently. He's restoring trust between Americans and the government, because you understand you understand that this was, your benefits were never supposed to be taxed to begin with. That was the deal the American government made with the American people. And from 1935 until 1983, that was the deal. And then they changed the deal. That wasn't what you started with. That wasn't the deal. And President Trump is trying to bring the deal back and say you can trust your government to do what they tell you they will do. President Trump is fighting to restore trust between Americans and the government. And he's trying to right a wrong here. One of the things that President Trump does is he tries to solve problems that nobody else is even working on. They're not even working on this stuff, and he's solving those problems. He's solving the problems other people, they're not even working on. This taxation is double. It's double taxation. Workers pay their 6.2% with after-tax dollars, and then are taxing them again, which is patently unfair. You're paying taxes twice. And he's not willing to say that. And seniors are vulnerable because you have fixed incomes and no ability to earn your way out of a broken tax promise for a tax burden. And he's fighting for that so you don't have to do that. And I think everybody should recognize he's fighting for something you can't fight back for. And that is so important. And it's really critical that this simplifies everything. And people will say, well, it's going to cost money. That was the deal. That was why they changed the deal. It didn't have anything to do with taxes. It had to do with trying to increase revenue. If we'll just let him go track down the fraud money, it'll more than pay for this 10 times over. It will more than pay for this to stop the fraud in America. Stop the fraud in America. And here's a little reminder. Here's a little reminder in case your mind is playing tricks on you. You matter. You are important. And you are important to this president. I know him, and you are important to this president. And I will tell you a quick story. We win. The end. You know, I've spent most of my life, certainly as a professional, actually since I was 12 years old, studying why people do what they do and don't do what they don't do. And I can tell you that in studying that, I have found out what makes people champions. And I know what makes him a champion. I can tell you, people that are champions play the game with passion. They play the game with passion. They surround themselves with like-minded people who understand why they feel so strongly about what they do. They tell themselves the truth. They deal with the truth when it comes up. And I didn't come down here just to stand up and say a few things and get a little golf clap from everybody and say nice speech. I wanted to come down here because I want you to remember what I'm saying about President Trump and not getting taxed on your Social Security benefits and about his leadership. I want you to remember that on May 1st, the bald guy came up and told you that this is important and we've got midterms coming up and you need to make sure that not only you vote, but find 10 people and make sure that they vote. Because we have a president that stopped apologizing for America and started taking pride in this country. I don't want you to just hear me. I don't want you to just hear me and give me a little golf clap. I want you to hear me and say, on this day, we decided we are marching for the USA. We are marching for the USA, and we are marching